co-founders of Georgia Overdose Prevention. I'm here with Lori Fugit, another co-founder of Georgia Overdose Prevention.
Hello.
And Mona Bennett with the Atlanta Harm Reduction Coalition.
Hello.
Georgia Overdose Prevention is a grassroots group of people that came together back in 2014 to try to get a law passed in the state of Georgia. And this is my son, Zach. Zach was a beautiful, bright, talented, sweet kid. He played piano, he played classical guitar, he played classical piano and electric guitar. He scored very highly on his SATs, over 700 on all 3 sections. He played sports, he was popular, and he was also an opiate user. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and what that means to me is that it's been over 29 years since I've had my last mind-altering or mood-altering substance. And back in Zach's sophomore year in high school, he called me from a party because he was wanted me to come get him, and I did. I went and picked him up, and he said, you know, the kids were about to start smoking weed, and he wanted to get out of there. So I picked him up and brought him home, and the next month he went to another party, and the kids were smoking weed, and he tried it, and within 3 months, Zach had tried every drug there was to try, including opiates. And it just really escalated from there. I sent him to Utah. He spent a year in Utah and came back, and he just kind of ramped back up, and that his whole senior year in high school was kind of a disaster. And then he went to freshman year of college, which was a bigger disaster. And at the end of that time, he came to me and said, I want to try to get in recovery, Mom. So he went to Tennessee, and he spent a year and a half living in Tennessee in a recovery community. And, you know, we thought we were on a decent track. He met a girl up there, and, you know, things just, they relapsed together right after Christmas in 2010. So at that point, I kind of didn't know what to do. I didn't, you know, he had been a year in Utah in recovery, a year and a half in Tennessee in recovery. And, you know, I am in recovery, but I came out of the abstinence model. So for me, I had never heard of harm reduction. And so all I was saying to him was quit using, quit using, quit using, quit using. I didn't know any other way. So when I didn't know what to do in 2011, after he had relapsed with that girl in Christmas time 2010, my in-laws said he could come down there and stay with them for a little while we figured it out. So he was down there, and he got a job and was going to AA meetings every day and church on Sunday, you know, no car, and seemed to be doing okay. And then on the night of April 30th, he came home from work, and my father-in-law picked him up, and he sat with them from 10:30 until 11, and at 11 they went to bed. At 11:01, Zach called his AA sponsor. He talked to his sponsor till 11:31. At 11:32, he called the girl that he was still really kind of obsessed with in Tennessee. She didn't answer. And at 11:33, he called the heroin dealer in Atlanta. And my in-laws they lived about 25 miles south of Atlanta. They had left the keys on the kitchen counter, and he grabbed the keys, jumped in the car, and took off. And the next morning, my father-in-law called and said, Zach has taken off, and we don't know where he is. So I started calling him and texting him and calling him and texting him, and no response until finally I sent him the text that I would always send him when I just really needed a response. And I just texted him. I said, Zach, I'm scared. And he always answered that text no matter what. He was my only child. It was just the 2 of us. And I got nothing. So I started praying, and mostly I was praying that he was in jail, because I knew that that was the better alternative of where he could be at that moment. But at about 3 o'clock the afternoon of May 1st, 2011, I got a call from my father-in-law that they had found Zach's body in the backseat of his grandparents' car in the English Avenue neighborhood of Atlanta, that some people still call the Bluff. And he died of a heroin overdose. It was May 1st, 2011, and he was 21. So needless to say, we just fell apart. And then we just started doing what people do when they
lose somebody that they love, and we planned his funeral, and his friends were all finishing their junior year in college, and they all flew in after finals and came to the funeral, and we buried him on May 7th. So I always say when I tell this story is I don't know why things happen the way they do, but on May 8th, the day after I buried Zach, I went and picked the newspaper up out of my front yard, and there was an article in the paper about 3 kids from Milton, Georgia, just north of Atlanta, that had all died of heroin overdoses. And in 2011, you were not reading about this in the paper every day. I'm just telling you, were not. This was not like now it's on the news. We just weren't hearing about it. It's not that people weren't dying and it wasn't happening, but it wasn't being publicized. So I sent a little email to the reporter, and I just said, you know, my son died too, and I just wanted to tell her about Zach. And we'll never know why I really did that, but I did. And that was kind of it. And that was just the end of that for a while until I think it was August 23rd. I got a call from that same reporter, and she said, I'm heading down to a place in Atlanta called the Atlanta Harm Reduction Coalition. She said, and we're going to be doing a story on them. And she said, I thought you might want to tag along. And as I said, I mean, I had never heard of harm reduction. I didn't know what it was. I certainly didn't know what a harm reduction coalition was. I had no idea, but honestly, I was just looking for a reason to get out of bed every day. And I said, okay. So I jumped in the car with her. She came and picked me up, and we drove down to AHARC, and I met Mona Bennett and some other people that day, and I learned a little bit about harm reduction. And I went on outreach with them, and they did a story that was mostly about AHARC with a little bit about Zach and me, and a picture of me holding Zach's picture. And that article came out Labor Day weekend, 2011. And again, that was just kind of it, you know, and I was just really struggling through my first year of grief with the loss of my son. And until the following spring, when I got a call from Mona Bennett, and she said, you know, these people have just come in, and these Jeremy Galloway and his wife Tori have just come in, and they have lost their friend Nick to a heroin overdose, and they would like to they're talking about trying to get a law passed in the state of Georgia. She said, and I just thought of you and thought you might be interested. And of course, again, I was kind of like, I don't know anything about getting a law passed. I don't even know what this Good Samaritan law is that you're talking about. And I have never even stepped foot in the Capitol, but okay, I'll try. Cause again, I was just looking for a purpose. So Mona and Jeremy and Tori and I met in Midtown at a restaurant to have dinner and try to talk about first steps to try to get this law passed in the state of Georgia. And I always affectionately describe us as 4 idiots, but really we were 3 idiots and one person that actually knew what she was doing. That was Mona. But I always just still affectionately say 4 idiots sitting there like, duh, I wonder how you get a law passed, and throwing ideas around and trying to figure out what we should do first. And then enter my friend Lori Fugit.
So I'm Lori, and I am a nurse. I live out in an area here called East Cobb, which is part of Marietta. And in 2012, I was just doing my mom thing. Have a couple of girls, working at a hospital as a postpartum nurse. And that year, 2 of my closest friends' sons overdosed on heroin, and one lived and one died. And I just did what I knew to do, which is, make casseroles and call them and give them hugs. But that was about it. I really didn't know there was anything else I could do. And then later that year, a child at the end of my street on my cul-de-sac, he was in the 11th grade. And he was just using whatever he could get his hands on. And his mom is a really close friend of mine, and she was just scared to death. And so I started trying to think, what would I do if she called me in the middle of the night, hysterical, saying that her son wasn't breathing. Because when you're a nurse, your neighbors call you before they call 911. And so all I knew I could do was run down the street and do CPR. But I knew about naloxone because we had it on my floor in the hospital. Any of our surgical patients had that in their standing order. So if we walked in their room and they were not breathing adequately, we could just run to the med room, grab it, and pop it in their IV line or give them a shot of it without having to stop and call a doctor. So I knew about it, but back in 2012, you know, it pretty much was just, at least down here in the South, it pretty much was just an ER drug, and it might be on an ambulance, it might not be on an ambulance. So I didn't know how to get it. I just wanted 1 or 2 vials and a couple of syringes in case she called me, so I could run down the street and at least, you know, give him a shot of naloxone. And so not knowing how to get it, I had heard that kids could somehow get, you know, drugs over the internet. And so I thought, well, maybe I can get, you know, the anti-drug, the antidote. And so I Googled something, I don't know, Narcan near me or something. I don't know what I put in, but what came up, I thought it would be an address from some faraway place where I could, you know, write off and get it. But instead, it was all these news articles, and every single one of them had the name Robert Childs, Robert Childs, Robert Childs. And I was like, who the heck is Robert Childs? So I read until I found his phone number, and I called him and just said, you don't know me, I'm just a little nurse in Marietta, Georgia, but I've got this kid I'm worried about, and I just want to get some Narcan to have. And he said, well, I'm in Raleigh, and he was working for the North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition, which I did not know what that was. I also did not know what harm reduction was. We didn't study that when I was in nursing school. I just knew he knew how to get his hands on some Narcan. So I decided he was going to be my new best friend. So I said, well, okay, you know, how do I get some Narcan? And I thought he was going to tell me I had to drive to Raleigh. And I was like, oh God, please don't make me drive all the way to Raleigh, because that's about, you know, I don't know, 12 to 14 hours round trip. But before I could even bring that up, he said, I'll bring it to you. And I was like, what? And he said, I'll bring it to you next week. And I thought, well, this is a weirdo. Like, I don't trust him. Why would he do that? Like, he's not coming to my house. And so I met him at a grocery store. He came and brought me my first little rescue kit and explained to me how they used it and everything. And then he started talking about that North Carolina Harm Reduction was trying to push through a law that would allow people to call 911 at the scene of an overdose and not be arrested. And it also was going to allow community people to have access to naloxone. And I don't know why, but that just grabbed me like nothing ever had before. And I'd never really had a cause before, but I just really believed that needed to happen. And then he told me that at that time there were only 10 states that had a law that allowed community people to have access to naloxone. And so I said, well, Georgia's not one of those, is it? And he was like, no. And I said, so you're telling me that in those states, if your child or your, you know, loved one is using, you can get this and probably sleep a hell of a lot better at night, knowing you at least have something that will help if they overdose. But if you live in Georgia, you're just SOL. And he said, uh-huh. And I said, well, why don't we have that law, Robert? And he just looked me dead in the eye in his little South African accent and said, I don't know, Laurie, why don't you have this law in Georgia? And I said, So I said, okay, what do I do? And he said, you need to get in touch with Mona Bennett. And I said, well, who's Mona Bennett? And he said, well, she runs the Atlanta Harm Reduction Coalition. And I said, oh, we have one of those? And he was like, yes, Laurie, you have one of those, you idiot. So he didn't say you idiot, but he thought it, I think. And so he gave me Mona's number. I called Mona. I think she was maybe surprised to hear of, you know, another little mom wanting to get involved, but she said, come join us at our next meeting. They were meeting at a Fresh to Go every, you know, so often to talk about this. And so that is how I became idiot number 5. And at that time in my life, I didn't drive in downtown Atlanta. And so I took my friend Susan Calamay, who had lost her son, Sean Lanham, to a heroin overdose because she knew Atlanta like the back of her hand. And so she became idiot number 6.
So there we are, the 6 of us in Midtown talking about how do we get a law passed. And we're kind of, you know, Robert was sort of guiding us a little bit. Mona knew some people, different people in the legislature. And I had talked to somebody in government and he had said, you know, first of all, he said, get ready. This is going to take you 4 years. And Georgia is not on the leading edge of this kind of thing. This will take you 4 years to get passed. And he said, you know, the very first thing you need to do is you need to get a sponsor for the bill. And it's going to be, and you're better off to have a Republican sponsor, because the Democrats will be easy to get on board, but the Republicans are going to dig their heels in. They're not going to be interested. But if you have a Republican sponsor, she can really, you know, that person can really help you. So we started throwing names around. And finally, Lori said, she said, how about my legislator, representative in the House? She said, she's a Republican. She's chairperson of the Health and Human Services Committee. She's a nurse, and I live in her district. And we said, that sounds good. Who is she? And she said, Sharon Cooper. So we're like, okay, Sharon Cooper. That's going to be our number one lifeline at the Capitol if we can get her to do it. So one of Zach's friends, in the meantime, one of my son's best friends, was a first-year law student, and he, I called him and asked him if he would help us. I mean, I found out through the grapevine of friends, I knew his parents and everything, that he was doing an internship at the Capitol. And I thought, well, maybe he can help us, because we don't really know how to work the system down there. So I called him and he said, absolutely, Ms. Elliott, I'd be so happy to help you. And I said, well, what are you doing down there anyway? And he said, I'm interning for Sharon Cooper, the chairperson of the Health and Human Services Committee. And we were like, really? Because we just felt like there was something bigger at work here than you know, just our little brains. So he got us an invitation to Sharon's home, and she met with us on a Sunday. We brought some other moms with us that we knew, and I think there were 7 of us there all together. Everybody in the room had lost somebody that they loved to overdose, and Sharon sat on the brick hearth of her fireplace, and she's in her 70s, and we all sat on her cushy sofas, and just told her about our children. And we told her about, you know, Stephen Cardegas, who was driven around in the backseat of a car, and he was overdosing, and his friends were too scared to call 911, and so he died. And we told her about Randall's mom Diane Brannon told about her son who was left on her front lawn, and when she got up to go to church on Sunday morning, he was lying on her front lawn and he had died of an overdose, but his friends were too scared. And the people that were overdosing, and the ambulance arrived, but there was no Narcan on the ambulance, and just, you know, so many different stories that we had to share with her. And by the time we finished telling her about our children and our friends and our family, Sharon agreed to sponsor our bill. And so she said, we'll take it forth this January. And we went down, and 40-day session, you know, we didn't know that you only have 40 days to get this thing done, because we didn't know the game. But we went down there every day with pictures of our children and our family and friends, and stories about, you know, what the law would do. And we met every single person that walked in the front door and talked to them. And the bill went through the House, and it much to our surprise, it passed. And then it had to go to the Senate, and it went to the Senate, and it finally got voted on in the Senate. And the Senate, of course, made a change in the bill. And so now it had to pass back to the House, and it was the 39th day of a 40-day session, and we were all down there and waiting and waiting and waiting. We'd been there since 8 in the morning, and we had been down there day after day after day after day. But we were just hoping it would get called back to the House floor, and it did about 8:30 that night. And we were all sitting in the upper gallery with pictures of our kids and just waiting, and we saw the green lights go up, and we realized that, you know, this group of people who had lost people that we loved, had just passed the Georgia 911 medical amnesty and expanded naloxone access law in the state of Georgia. It was a very bittersweet moment for many of us, myself included. I knew that it wasn't going to change Zach's story, but I knew that it would change other people's stories. We were honored as parents, we were invited to stand in the governor's office when he signed the bill into law on April 24th, 2014. And it was a very, very proud moment for many of us. So that's sort of the story of how a bunch of amateurs with the help of some more professional people, sort of guiding us through, got a law passed in the state of Georgia. And I'm going to flip it back to Lori, and she can tell you a little bit about what's happened since the law passed.
Oh, muted.
There we go. I'm sorry. Okay. Since the law passed, we realized kind of after it passed that we had really just started, because we learned of someone overdosing, 4 or 5 days after the law passed, and we realized, oh, nobody knows about our sparky little law, and nobody has naloxone, and so it turned into an ongoing project that has grown and grown and grown and grown. But what I ended up doing was kind of, because I'm a nurse, I ended up being kind of more involved with the obtaining of naloxone and getting people trained to be able to teach other people. And so I now have 85 distributors that I have trained personally. And they function as our kit distributors. So people reach out to us we have a Facebook page, we have a website that's being updated right now, so you might not see it. We have Instagram, because some young man needed to do community service hours, and of course, I have no idea how to do Instagram, but he set it up for us. And we have an email address. And Robin and I and several other people do a lot of presentations, especially before COVID. We were doing about 100 large group presentations a year. So people were learning about us and learning, our email address and that sort of thing. Of course, we put all those social media sites on every piece of literature that we've written and put out there, and so people are learning it. So our following was growing, and as our following grew, more and more people wanted to be involved. And so we trained kit distributors, and they work in their local area of the state. So now, instead of me and Robin and just a couple of other co-founders driving all over the state, which is what we were doing at the beginning, now people reach out to us through one of those sites. I look and see where they're located, and then I look and see which one of my distributors is closest to that person requesting a kit. I hook them up, and then our distributor meets with them in a public place and does a quick training and gives them the kits that they need. We also do some trainings regularly. We train, there's a group called the CARES class, that's Certified Addiction Recovery Empowerment Specialists. And Robin and I go and do that every other month. We train about 40 people at a time. And those people are working now jobs that as peer specialists in EDs when overdoses come in, and also in NICUs when babies are transferred to the NICU because they're, maybe having some issues with withdrawal. And so now the people we've trained in CARES can pass on their training to other, other people who need to know about it. We partner with AHARC, so we cover the entire state except for where AHARC is located and covers. So they do the kind of the English Avenue, Vine City area, and all over Little Five Points, and that's probably going to be expanding it too in the next few months or a year, they're going to start hopefully doing some other counties. But for right now, that's how it is. And so we do the rest of the state, and we're the only group doing that. And we are just volunteers. We're not even a nonprofit, but AHARC is. So if we get a donation, we take it to AHARC's accountant, we put it in a joint naloxone fund, and then when we buy stuff out of that naloxone fund, we share it. You know, AHARC has been wonderful with us. They have always helped us out with syringes big time, and that's how we kind of use them as our fiscal partner too. When we apply for grants, we for about 5 years we just paid for everything out of our own pockets, all of our co-founders. And then in 2000, and I guess it was 17, we learned about this grant called the STR grant, and actually the ADAPT pharmaceutical rep told me about it, and we just so happened to be going to the Capitol that day, and so we learned who was writing the grant, and we basically just accosted her 3 different times, begging her to let us put in an application for part of that money for naloxone, because Georgia was not going to allocate any money for naloxone from those grants. And at the end of the day, I think she was just tired of us, and she agreed to let us put in an application. So Robin wrote up an application, and by God, surprise, we got it. So, I mean, we were just floored. We didn't even understand what it was, the amount of money. It turned out being double what we thought it was. But we got that first STR grant, and once we got that, they just kept writing us in the next grant and the next grant and the next grant. It's been wonderful. So when we wrote the first grant, we also included AHARC, and we included another state group that does some work with addiction and recovery. They provide free services across the state. So we give them, you know, some of the kits and that sort of thing. We've also gotten some grants from one of the local communities where we used to go and do fundraising. The man that opened the restaurant that we would always be at, he got us a grant from the little city he lives in. We got one from the hospital that I worked at, and then we got another one from another foundation. So we've been really fortunate to be able to have a steady supply of naloxone since 2017. Prior to that, we were very lucky to know Robert and some other people who were very generous with us with naloxone. So, and now that COVID has hit, you know, we've had to change our distribution somewhat because you know, not all of my distributors want to be doing face-to-face trainings. And so we've done more Zoom trainings or WebEx or Teams. We're mailing kits, which normally we don't mail kits without an in-person training. But this has necessitated that we pivot and do that. So we're doing that and getting out. Actually, last month was our busiest month, even with COVID. We distributed just GOP. This doesn't include what AHARC also distributed, but GOP distributed 2,716 kits. In July, we trained 800 people. So it was, you know, really busy, and I don't see that letting up anytime soon. From July of 2019 to July of 2020, GOP gave out 11,660 kits, and we train everything from one-on-one to the largest training we did was we trained 1,300 people at one time at a recovery rally that our Georgia Council on Substance Abuse puts on every year down at the Capitol. And people from all over the state come who are in recovery. And it's just a wonderful day. And they always allow us to get up on stage and do a training and distribute kits. So that's been our largest training. And when we do distribute our kits, we have in there a couple of things. We have information in there on Atlanta harm, because we want people throughout the state to know that there is a place where they can get, unused syringes, where they can get PrEP, where they can get all sorts of testing. And we've AHART recently got the SSP bill passed in Georgia, so hopefully we're going to have some more of those popping up to serve people in rural areas of our state. We also include some information in our kits about Never Use Alone, the organization that they've got a website and a Facebook page, but they provide a peer on the other end of the telephone line. So if someone has to use a loan, they can call the Never Use a Loan number, and a peer stays with them on the phone, finds out their location, finds out if they have any medical issues or allergies. And then if the person doesn't respond after a certain amount of time, they notify EMS to go to that location for a possible overdose. So we think that's important for people to know, because unfortunately, there are people who, for whatever reason, are still using a loan, and we just want them to be covered. Just a couple of other things. We have kit parties at my house, so we make all of GOP's kits at my home, and that's turned into something I wasn't anticipating. It's kind of a therapeutic thing for some people, because we have such a variety of people who participate, and people who are actively using, people who have to do community service hours, moms and dads who have lost loved ones, healthcare people who just care. We get a lot of Emory students and Northside nurses and things like that, Northside Hospital. So it's like people kind of find the person they need to talk to that day and learn things, and it's fun. And so we do that. We do try to target our kits to a specific audience, because even though we do get a lot of grant money and we have a lot of kits, we still don't have an unlimited supply. And so we really want our kits to go to people who we consider to be at high risk. So people, actively using opiates, whether they're prescribed or not, people who are using any kind of street drug really, except pot, people who are sex workers, people who are in recovery or on, MAT, medicated assisted treatment, people who have lowered tolerance because of a period of abstinence, like detoxes, jails, that sort of thing. We just got in our first jail after all this time. One of my distributors on her own went to the people in charge of the jail in her little city in far South Georgia, and she got them to she runs a recovery community organization. She is a person in long-term recovery herself. She went through that CARES program I spoke about. And she ended up going in, training 114 people who were incarcerated. And then we give a Narcan kit to the property manager. So when someone is released and they get their bag of personal items, in their bag is one of our Narcan kits. Because she did that, and she there is a program online that you can copy if you want to do that. She took that and then she just personalized it for her area. But because she did it, now I have 4 other distributors that want to do that in their local areas. So we're really excited, about that. Let's see, I think that's about it for what we're doing now. Did I leave anything out that you know of?
Can we mention the person who did the legal heavy lifting for our bill? Can we mention him by name?
Justin Leaf. Let's let Robin
Yeah.
talk about Justin.
Oh, did I not say his name?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. So when I was talking before about my son's friend that was a first year law student, his name is Justin Leaf, and he shepherded us. He was like our shepherd as we walked around the Capitol, and he was constantly working with the other legislators and everyone. So yeah, absolutely don't want to leave his name out. He was very valuable to the process. So I don't think you left anything out, Lori. You know, the only other thing I would say is I think one of the reasons that we've been so successful, because we are a volunteer group, is just that we're very singularly focused. You know, we kind of don't allow ourselves to get pulled out into a lot of different things. You know, we're happy to answer questions or direct people to someone else that they might need. But we just try to stay right in our lane so that we don't get distracted, and we just try to do that one thing as well as we possibly can.
Yeah. And we owe it all to Mona.
Yeah, that's so true.
We're like the spokes on a wheel, and Mona's like the hub, and she.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
I know so, and yeah. So
I guess that's it for us, Lori.
I think so. I think one thing I just forgot to say is over the past year, GOP, we've had a little bit over 1,000 reversals that we know about. So we're pretty confident there's a lot more than what we know about. But, you know.
Did you mention how many kits we've distributed?
In the last year, we did about 11,000, a little bit more. But since we started, combined with AHARC, we've done over 50,000.
Yeah.
Right now, what's going gangbusters for us is Robert Charles is actually one of my distributors now, which I just love, because he's not traveling for his job right now, and because of COVID. So he decided, you know, he's not going to just sit around. So even though he lives in Chattanooga now, he comes into Georgia and he covers 4 or 5 methadone clinics up in North Georgia. And so at those, we tend to give out IM kits because, you know, they're a lot cheaper for us to put together than the Narcan nasal kits. I mean, he's giving out like 800 at a time. I mean, he's just going gangbusters. And we've even been fortunate enough to have 3 times we've had the woman that runs Alabama Harm Reduction Coalition go up there to help Robert distribute, because their laws are so strict in Alabama that, you know, she's just wanting to help us. And so Ella Bannister has really helped us out there too. So we're just really fortunate with the connections we've made with people who, you know, have hearts of gold. So
yeah, thanks. Pass it to Mona.
Hey y'all, how are you? I'm Mona Bennett, ambassador with the Atlanta Harm Reduction Coalition, and another co-founder of Georgia Overdose Prevention. I remember, before I forget, August is International Overdose Awareness Month. August 31st is International Overdose Awareness Day. Of course, Miss Rona, the coronavirus, is making gatherings real interesting right now, but we're still doing the work. And I want to acknowledge someone else who was a co-founder. Someone else who was a co-founder. Jeremy Galloway. He recently passed on. Oops, hello. Oh yeah, there I am. Sorry. I thought I had, I'm having issues. Sorry, few technical issues. Anyway, I want to acknowledge Jeremy Galloway, who recently passed away, and he was a co-founder of Atlanta Harm Reduction, of Georgia Overdose Prevention. I remember when was our first gathering of overdose?
It was in 2012.
Thank you. Thank you. I remember mid-August 2012, I knew about International Overdose Awareness Day, but I didn't want to be yet another committee of one. So I was kind of whiny about it. And lo and behold, Jeremy and his wife Tori called up, hey, is anything happening for International Overdose Awareness Day? And I felt like the heavens had opened because, hey, I could do a committee of 3, yes. Robin and Lori and Susan and a few other people came together for that first vigil in Piedmont Park, which, by the way, was Labor Day weekend. So we had Black Gay Pride.
That's right.
Well, way off Decatur Book Festival. Dragon Con.
Dragon Con, that's right.
And I feel like I'm still forgetting some other big event that was happening. But hey, we 19 people got together. We memorialized the people we needed to memorialize, and that's when we came together, and that's when we started having the meetings at Fresh to Order. That's when we met. I just said his name. Justin Leaf, and that started the process. And I really want to honor Justin Leaf because basically he took North Carolina's law, stripped out everything North Carolina, put in Georgia, and helped us help Representative Cooper usher the bill through the Republican supermajority legislator that is the Georgia General Assembly. There were quite a few other people who did it too. Our other Jeremy Sharp, he organized a whole bunch of college students. We had the secret weapons, Lieutenant Tanya, whose boss, who was a chief of police, had to do that unfortunate knock on her door, announcing that her daughter was found in the ditch dead from an overdose. She was a very compelling person who testified, as was the grandmother, teetotaling grandmother who overdosed at least 2 times.
Kathy.
Yeah, Ms. Kathy, through no fault of her own, because she took medication as she should have, as her doctor ordered. But she found out the first generation of generic oxycodone had a defective covering.
That's right.
And she was unfortunately had a lot of health issues, and she had some sort of extreme treatment, we'll say, that changed her body chemistry. What was an okay dose before that treatment was not. Luckily, she was in the hospital getting that treatment and had taken her pain medication as ordered by the doctor. She started overdosing. An alert custodial staff member recognized the code, signaled for medical help. She got reversed a second time. A third time, she paid it forward. A friend of her son's was overdosing 2 doors down from her house. And then Douglas County did not have Narcan or naloxone, however you want to call it, on the uh, yes, she
Kathy
hung
Fletcher.
in there until the
Kathy
bill
Fletcher.
was signed. On our Facebook page, you'll see I'm sorry, who helped on the bill. And she's there with her little dog Simon. I just want to, I just want to thank everybody who made this happen. And final points on that. Well, never doubt the power of crying white suburban parents. Uh, well, we all know that nothing is a problem until it starts affecting uh, upper middle class and upper class white people. Hey, it's just a fact of life. But we use that to great effect to pass this and other harm reduction bills. Um, I am with the Atlanta Harm Reduction Coalition. You might be able to see my shirt. AHRC, AHARC, and we distribute a lot of naloxone during our syringe services programs. As Lori mentioned, we serve people. We help people protect their own health and lives in the English Avenue area, aka the Bluff, and also in Little Five Points, where well, there were a lot of overdoses happening in Little Five Points. Oops. And this is what we generally pass out: the Narcan nasal spray. Up and up. Did I knock it down? Of course I did. And here's the box. Now, a lot of you who will be here are old hands at this, but I'm just showing off the box just in case there is somebody new. This is the Narcan brand nasal spray. There are two of those cartridges that I just shown. It goes up your nose. It's very easy to use. Single digit children have saved the lives of their loved ones because mommy, daddy, Uncle Freddie said something like, if you see me turning blue or gray or purple, get one of these cartridges and stick it up my nose and squirt it up my nose. And then call 911. Just don't run, call 911. Oh my. I had a few figures, but of course I left them on my desk. But we have helped people save the lives of their friends, their loved ones, their substance using partners. We've given people the power to save lives, and it does help people feel better about themselves that they can do something. They can reverse an opioid overdose. Um, oh yeah. We usually have those boxes in a package like this. Let's see if we can. Well, I'm just gonna put it in front of my face. Um, we've handed out a lot of them. I hope to have a number by time we go live with this. Um, let's see. We've been handing this out since
Yeah.
informally, yeah, we'll say informally, since 2013. The law passed 2014, April 24th, as I recall. And when we first started passing this out, we were highly in debt to the numerous naloxone ferries that flitter across the U.S., dropping at first IM Narcan or naloxone hydrochloride, the little vials, as they flittered along. And luckily, we did get funding to pass out to pass out naloxone. And you know what? I want to talk a little bit about naloxone just in case there's some new folks here. Um, Naloxone hydrochloride, it can come in a nasal spray. It can come in a little vial. It can come in uh, uh, oh goodness, why did I just, auto injector. Yes, that's what I'm looking for, auto injector. The farther away you get from the needles, or the more the needle is hidden, the more expensive it is. Why are you fuzzy? Oh, there you go. Anyway, the basic needle and vial and all Narcan, naloxone that we hand out are two doses. Two dose packs. There are 2 doses in this box. When we give out the syringe and vial, there are 2 horse syringes, 3 cc, 23-ish gauge syringes, and 2 little vials of naloxone hydrochloride. If you get the Lamborghini, Ferrari, Maserati of naloxone, brand name Evzio. There are 2 doses in there, and we'll start from the most expensive on down. For the Evzio, that is an auto injector. It talks to you. I believe there used to be some EpiPens that were of a similar design. It talked you through the injection, the administration process. Well, for us, that bit of naloxone hydrochloride, Narcan, that was $4,500, depending where you were. The injection, well, the vials for 2 dose. Well, yeah, $50 for a 2 dose kit. But we still hand those out to different people, like different forms of administration. Oh yeah. You gotta know what an overdose looks like. Are people changing colors, blue or purple or gray? If I were to be overdosing on an opioid, I might turn purple or gray, and that could be my face, that could be my lips, could be my fingernails. Unresponsiveness. That's the biggest sign of an overdose. And you test for unresponsiveness by making a fist, rubbing real hard on someone's sternum. Yes, it hurts. It is supposed to. It won't harm you, but it will, sure as shooting, test for responsiveness, because this is painful. Is someone responding to that pain in any way? Ow, moving around, stop it, slapping at your hand. If people are doing none of that, they're just laying there, they are unresponsive. Please get whatever form of naloxone hydrochloride you have and administer it. For Narcan, it's really easy. And I really like Adapt Pharmas. That's the manufacturers. I like the way they designed this box. Red strip. If you remember nothing else of what we've talked about today, red strip. Open here for a quick start guide. Opioid overdose response instructions. So open, bam. Those are the instructions. Hey, identify opioid overdose and check for response. There's some other stuff to look for. Pinpoint pupils, breathing slow, irregular, stop, real slow. If someone is breathing 8 breaths or fewer per minute, you will have to help out somehow with CPR, if you really know them like that, maybe you will consider rescue breathing. Otherwise, do the hands-free CPR, just the chest compressions. Anyway, it tells you the instructions. 1, 2, 3. You figured out they're overdosing, give them Narcan. This is in the box. 2 of these are in the box. Peel off this back. Take it out the package, stick it up a nose. Oh yeah, and here's the grip. Here's the right-handed grip. Your thumb is on the trigger. I believe Afrin may have a similar grip for its sinus spray. Anyway, your thumb is on the trigger, so you're going to push up on the trigger, and that squirts the Narcan up the nose. Now it is time to wait 3 or 4 of the longest minutes of your life. Set a timer on your phone or really note the time. If you have to leave them to go get the Narcan, you have to grab your phone, put them in the recovery position. You're putting them on the side and putting the arm and the leg, let's see if we can get a little closer on that, the arm and the leg that is not on the ground in front of them, that braces them so they won't roll from side to side and roll on their back, roll on their stomach, and well, they might aspirate something, because opioids can make you do that, make you throw up. And well, choke on their own vomit. Sorry if anybody's snacking right now. Okay, I'm told we should wait only 2 minutes, and that's probably good, because breath is life, and a minute can make a difference. So make that 2 minutes. This is not a pause sign. 2 minutes before considering another dose, but have it ready. In those 2 minutes, you're going to be checking for responsiveness every half minute. You're assessing their breathing. Do you need to do that hands-free CPR? Do you need to call 911? Because don't run, call 911. Figure out if you need to call 911. Have that phone nearby. You can put it on speaker, put it down beside you, and they'll talk you through and be with you as much as someone can be with you on the phone through this process. This may take a while. Be prepared for a lot of chest compressions, a lot of CPR. But be as calm as you can. Be as calm as you can. Be as calm as you can. If there's somebody else there with you besides the person needing the that you're working on, whose overdose you're trying to reverse, see if they can help you, even if it is just calling 911 and being on the phone with 911, helping you find the Narcan. See if you can get any help, because this law. Oh, a little bit more about the law while we're all in this. The law provides limited immunity to the person having the any drug-related medical emergency. It covers the person who, in good faith, is trying to render aid to this person having this drug-related medical emergency. It may take a while. The police might be the first responders. So if there's anybody in the room who will have issues with that, maybe they should exit now. Again, if you're by yourself, it's just you and that person having this medical emergency, and you have to go wave down the ambulance, put them on their side, go wave down that ambulance, bring them right back up. This may be an extended incident, an extended process. So do your best to get through it. and help the person who needs the help. I want to talk a little bit about aftercare for the person who just had this experience, and for you who had the experience of reversing an overdose. First, the person who had the experience. They're gonna be dope sick because what Narcan does is it knocks all the opioids off of all the opioid receptors um, for 20 to 90 minutes. So yeah, they're not going to feel very good. They might cuss you out, but if they're cussing you out, they're breathing, and that is what needs to happen. So just smile. Hey, I'm glad you breathing and cussing me out. Yes, take it. Because if that ain't karma points, I don't know what is. Okay. The person may refuse pardon me, may refuse medical care. That's on them. But I would make that call because and open if you really want to be babysitting someone for 4 to 8 hours who's going to be really grumpy until those opioids kick back in, get back on those opioid receptors again, but they might overdose again. So don't run. Call 911. You, person who reverse an overdose, take care of yourself because it might kick some stuff up in you if that has been part of your experience using substances and overdosing on an opioid. It may kick something up. So take some quiet time to yourself. Talk to a friend. Talk to someone who's been through this. Let the shakes pass. A year ago, just over a year ago, I had to help reverse an overdose. And as I saw the young woman being rolled out on a gurney, going to the ambulance, I started shaking. I was real cool. I was cooler than ice cream in January cool, handling the business. But man, just seeing her, I just had to go sit down. I was able to talk to someone. We talked as a staff. My executive director, Dr. Zari, checked in on me that evening. We had a debriefing a few days later. So treat yourself gently for a couple of days because it is a nerve-wracking experience. Yes, it's touch and go, life and death. So that can work your nerves. So please take care of yourselves. You know what? I think that's it for me. So peace.
Peace.